So, if you've been following English football quite closely, outside the Premier League, of course, you will know by now that a miracle has been taking place at Ipswich Town at Portman Road for the last two seasons under thanks to Kieran McKenna, who I've just learned is actually half a month younger than me, which is crazy to think. Thanks to Kieran McKenna, the former, he was actually one of Jose Mourinho's assistants at Manchester United. The Tractor Boys are having undoubtedly their best run, their best couple of seasons in probably, I'd say, about over 20 years. Of course, it was back in 2002 when they were last in the Premier League. They've had a couple of seasons in the Championship where they sort of went into the playoffs once or twice, but they've sort of been mid-table, and then they got relegated, dropped to League One, spent a couple of seasons in League One, and there was also financial concerns. There was also angst against the ownership, like Marcus Evans, and yeah, look, they've in fact, it was only 2 or 3 years, I think. Even just before Kieran McKenna had come, they were not really considered they were sort of a considered team that was, they should be in the Championship. They got this history, of course, being coached by Bobby Robson, been in the Premier League a couple of times, top division, won the 83 UEFA Cup, FA Cup, etc. They were sort of considered one of English football's sleeping giants. But they've certainly now clearly awoken. And yeah, as it said, they were sitting second. They've had some really they have spent much of the 2023-24 Championship in the top, pretty much at the right end of the table, the top end. They've spent quite a bit of time in second, and now sort of chasing Leicester. Of course, Leicester City looked at one stage like they were going to clinch Premier League promotion to the Premier League in March, but they've kind of fallen off the cliff. And as it stands now, we've got Leeds United top and Ipswich close behind, and it has become a very, very intriguing race. And we are sort of in a position where you could almost think Ipswich could very well get automatic promotion, and it's certainly been deserved. I mean, I did a video around this time last year when Ipswich were having this amazing run, where they were scoring 5 or 6 goals per home game. It was on the All In Report channel, which got deleted by YouTube. So it's a shame I can't bring that up. It's because I can't get any old videos from there. But in that video, I did raise one interesting point there. XG in the 2022-23 League One was 2.16, which, okay, I get it's League One, but it is much, much higher than any other side in the Championship. And only Arsenal, Manchester City have an XG that high in the whole of English football. And of course, and then the other interesting point was their XG goals against was 0.96. Another really remarkable stat. And this, I guess stats and all they tell, but this was a side that was incredible to watch. They had some really good attacking players. George Hurst, who's been injured for much of the second half of the season, and it's a player that they've built around. He was kind of one of the keys of getting Ipswich into the Championship and that easily. Funnily enough, they finished second behind Plymouth, but that's sort of a different story. Plymouth, of course, now struggling to stay in the Championship. Ipswich are flying at the moment. But yeah, so I did sort of talk about it, and it's now quite interesting that, and not a whole lot of people knew about Ipswich, but now it's April 2024, they're second, and everyone's talking about them. Everyone's talking about Kieran McKenna. Everyone's talking about likes of Ali Al-Hamadi, who they signed halfway through the season after George got injured. Al-Hamadi was playing for AFC Wimbledon. He went over, he played for Iraq in the AFC Asian Cup, had an outstanding tournament there, and he's continued that form, and he's become pretty much the key man up front, to the point, I guess, it'll be interesting to see what happens with George. I think they'll keep him on, but he might of course, remains to be seen if George Hurst will feature in the Premier League or whether they might loan him out to a Championship club. We shall see. And of course, speaking of George Hurst, I guess he was the key to the reason why Ipswich had this flying start where they were second for much of the, they stayed in second against, the likes of Leicester, Leeds, Southampton, who are all this perishing money, West Brom, Middlesbrough, all these former Premier League so-called sides have been in the Premier League. We're still, Ipswich, of course, hadn't been in the Championship a number of seasons. It's been a long 20-odd years. It was sort of a different time when George Burley was looking after the club. And I guess the question now is I guess the question, when George has got injured, would that scupper Ipswich's chances? There were lots of concerns. They got Al Hamadi, they got Kiefer Moore on loan from Bournemouth, and they got another player who's been really a shock, has been a surprise, revelation is Jeremy Sarmiento, that he's the Ecuadorian English winger, got loaned out from Brighton. Not really known to be a goal scorer, but he has contributed a number of goals, including, of course, that very, very late winner against Southampton in the game recently against Southampton. Whether I don't believe Sarmiento. There is a option to buy clause for Sarmiento, because, as you know, Brighton like keeping their players, and so I think I don't expect Sarmiento to be joining Ipswich if they were to get into the Premier League. But they do have another player that they do have is Omar Hutchinson. He's on loan from Chelsea. He's 20 years old. He's been making the most appearances for the club, and he's been probably the unsung hero of the club. And that midfield, key contributor to all those goals. You've got some other Nathan Broadhead, who Netflix fans might be familiar. He's played for Sunderland. He's the Welsh international. He's come on and he's done really well under McKenna. But McKenna, of course, as I said, with the background from Manchester United, the Irishman, of course, was assistant coach at Manchester United, and so he's been able to use a couple of his links. Although, funnily enough, I guess, I don't know, Ipswich fans might disagree with me, like on, Axel Tuan Sebi, they signed him off contract from Manchester United. He hasn't really made the impact as much, and he's playing in a position as centre-back, which, as I will talk about a bit more, has been shown to be a bit of a concern for Ipswich. Which probably will need to be addressed in the summer transfer window, whether they are in the Premier League or whether they are going to make another push for promotion. And Brandon Williams, again, I can't see that Brandon Williams being retained by the club or bought by the club. I expect him to be going back to Manchester United. Hasn't quite worked out there. He's a right back, and again, and I guess that kind of leads me to this point. I guess, look, it's great they make the Premier League. They've got outstanding XG and a really well balanced side, but there are a couple of concerns that they will be interesting to see how they address it in the summer transfer window.
They'll be allowed to get forward. We'll see. Morsi, Twanzebe. By Chaplin as he went to ground. This is Somerville running at Clark, support on the outside from Spence.
So I spoke about the attack. That's been the real positive thing, and that will ultimately be that will ultimately be their showpiece in the Premier League. Ipswich have always been a club that plays attacking football, and I can't see, if they were to be in the Premier League, they will be exciting to watch. I could see them being a bit like what Burnley tried to do, what Burnley were trying to do, what Luton have done, Bournemouth and all that. It is the way, you don't have to, newly promoted clubs don't play long ball tactics anymore. And as you see, like Sheffield United being negative, that is just old fashioned out of the window now. You'll see an Ipswich side that's going to be very attractive to watch. They're going to play a high press game, and I can see them causing a lot of established Premier League sides a lot of problems. Certainly at Portman Road, they are going to be very, very tough to beat. But the concern, I guess, and with a lot of analysts, coaches would have seen, Ipswich Town's weakness is in transition. When the other side when they're up front, they've turned the ball over, and it's been even against a bottom side like Rotherham. They've where they were lucky to come over 4-3 winner at Portman Road. Against Leeds, they were thrashed 4-0 at Ellen Road. Likes of Somerville, etc. When they're up against pacey wingers, they were absolutely demolished at Ellen Road, and there have been some problems there. Leif Davis, look, he's a great left back. Very, he has scored a really great goal against Southampton, but he did concede. He did concede a penalty against Leeds, and I guess a little bit of a question marks over his defensive qualities there. The goalkeeper Hadraki has been really outstanding since he took the number 1 jersey from Christian Walton. But at age 33, question marks about the longevity, whether he can retain being the first, and I guess the coverage there. I think one question is, of course, goalkeepers now, they're not just shot stoppers. They have to be able to start attacks. And I guess one player I had in mind, and this is one player that they should be targeting, is that goal, and it depends on whether West Brom do get back into the Premier League. It's Alex Palmer, born 10th of August 1996. He's 27. He's been the second best goalkeeper in terms of clean sheets in the Championship. West Brom are fighting for a place in the playoffs. If they get into the Premier League, Alex Palmer will almost certainly follow them. But if they don't, that could be an option there for Ipswich. I don't expect Ipswich Town to be bursting the bank, even though if they are financially in a very, very strong position, better than they've had. They've had, of course, the funding from Ed Sheeran as well. But I don't expect them to be spending like $20 million on a goalkeeper, even if they are going to Premier League. They're not going to do what Nottingham Forest did. So Alex Palmer, for me, would make sense. There was another player I was looking at, Noah Blue, he's the German under-21 keeper at Freiburg, and Artubolu, his transfer fee is surprisingly not that high, so that may be if they go into the Premier League, they may be able, they have the ability to cast the net out into Germany, into Italy, France, all those young particularly France, you're looking at your likes of Lille, etc., with all these young players. They might be able to look out there. Maybe they could find another diamond in Ali Al-Hamadi, and I guess that's been one of the strengths. Ipswich scouting system has so far been excellent. Besides Hurst, they've got Connor Chaplin, a second striker. I think he should feature in the Premier League if they were to get up there. So I guess defending. Look, I guess to put a dampener on this miracle, and put it with caution. Look, they defend the summer. Whatever happens, that certainly defending is going to be. You have to look. They're not. I don't think they cut and. They wouldn't be looking at someone who's just a plotter. They would be looking at a defender who plays the ball. West. I guess they've got West Burns, Wolfenden. They've been really solid at the back, but I guess the Premier League is going to be a big step up, and I guess it'll be interesting to see what happens, who they pick up, and who's available. There's also questions about midfield. I'm not entirely convinced Massimo Luongo what they have right there is going to be, it's going to be good enough. Sam Morsey, the captain, has been superb, but I think he will take them into the Premier League. But again, that has got to be they've got to look at that it's clear and area needs to be strengthened. I guess, speaking of, and I meant there is one more Ipswich player who I mentioned in the past. I did Alkan Bagor. Well, is he Premier League quality? I'm not particularly confident that he will feature. I mean, given that he's been loaned, the fact that they're now they're preparing him for life in the Premier League now. That's all to see with your Sarmientos, Morse, Al-Hamadi. They've loaned him out of Bristol Rovers. Look, he's 20. And I get, he's still really young, but in the past they've said that he is a player that they want to build their team on. But I'm not sure going out to Bristol Rovers just to get game time is a necessarily good sign. Look, he had a solid performance against a Premier League team in Fulham in the League Cup, but I'm not. Again, and I guess if they, obviously with if they are having issues with defense, I think it'll be asking a lot on him. And certainly, I think they may. I might expect him to be loaned out again if they, in just to get game time, and possibly may move on. So yeah, a lot of questions for Kieran McKenna at Ipswich, but certainly very exciting time. Certainly, I think Ipswich Tractor Boys fans who are certainly would be much you'd be happy to be debating who should be, what players they need to look at in the summer, certainly compared to as recently as like 3 years ago when the club seemed like it was not going anywhere. There, a lot of, you had empty seats at Portman Road. It was the football, it was just a club that was just in a state of flux and not really going anywhere. So these are certainly exciting times. And there's certainly a lot of young players at Ipswich who are absolutely talented. And yeah, if whatever happens, they are certainly going to be a team to watch. And the fact, they've been able to compete with the likes of Leicester, Leeds, who have just been as good to watch. It's a testament to what the work that Kieran McKenna has done at the club. So yeah, so that's my thoughts on Ipswich. Not wanting to burst the bubble of this miracle, just exercising a bit of caution. How will Ipswich go? So will Ipswich be in the Premier League next season? And I guess if so, how can they survive it? What are they going to need to do to survive it? And which current players will hang around? Which current players will they move on? I'd like to hear your thoughts. If you like this video, feel free to like and don't forget to subscribe.